Hey, what is up guys, and welcome to another Honkai Star Rail video. Okay, so it's time for another Honkai Star Rail account overview video, and this time I finally did it. I managed to 30 star the Memory of Chaos, mostly due to the help of the Memory Turbulence, and the fact that I finally decided to build up my Pela and use her. So basically what I'm going to do for this video is I'm going to show you the teams I used for floor 10 of the Memory of Chaos, as well as the characters, their gear, etc., their builds, everything you need to know. Here's my Memory of Chaos progression. As you can see, I fully 30 starred all 10 stages, and surprisingly enough, earlier than usual. Usually I wait until the last 2 days or the last couple of hours in order to just try and cram or rush the Memory of Chaos. I decided to do it ahead of time this time, so I had more time to actually practice and have more attempts. Surprisingly enough, it didn't take that many attempts to actually 3-star the later stages of Memory of Chaos. Like for floor 8, I believe it only took 1 attempt, floor 9 took maybe 2 or 3 attempts, and then for floor 10, once I built up Pela, it only took about maybe 5 or 6 attempts, but a few of those attempts were just really quick attempts that failed because my first team ended up dying. But once my first team was able to survive, I usually didn't have an issue dealing with Kafka in the second half of floor 10. So for this season's Memory of Chaos Memory Turbulence, when an ally is hit or consumes their own HP, gain 1 stack of Memory Imprint. Each stack of Memory Imprint reduces damage taken by a target by 12% up to 3 stacks. At the start of each cycle, deals a set amount of damage to all enemies based on the highest Memory Imprint stack count on an ally. Then remove all Memory Imprint stacks from all allies. This Memory Turbulence really did help me out during this season of Memory of Chaos. Not only did it reduce the damage that my allies would take, it also increased the amount of damage. It helped to clear out a lot of the side trash mobs that a lot of the enemies would spawn, like that Mara-struck general. It really did help out with his extra Mara-struck mobs. So I'm not exactly sure how well I'm going to perform in the later Memory of Chaos seasons, but I can definitely guarantee you guys that this buff did greatly benefit me for my floor 10 run. As for the teams, these are the teams that I ran. For the first half, I ran Zile, Silverwolf, I believe Ting Young, Bailu, and then for the second half, I definitely ran Pela, Dan Heng, Natasha, and then March 7th. For the first half of floor 10, damage was definitely not an issue. It was more of survivability. If I had some bad RNG and the enemies decided to focus down any of my squishy characters other than Bailu, they would pretty much die. Obviously, they'd revive thanks to Bailu's passive, but if it happened a second time, then my run would be ruined. So as long as my squishy characters were able to survive and my RNG wasn't too terrible, I was able to clear the first half within 5 to 6 rounds. When we get to the second half of floor 10, however, obviously my second team is not able to deal as much damage as the first team. However, they definitely had better survivability because of March 7th and Natasha being the healer. And even though the damage output that Dan Heng provides is nowhere near as much as Zile combined with Silverwolf and Ting Young, thanks to Pela's buff removal, I was actually able to clear within time because I didn't have to deal with the constant healing and having to kill off or at least remove the buffs from his Mara-struck soldiers. When this guy spawns like Mara-struck soldiers, those soldiers have a revive buff, and if they have a revive buff, he will constantly heal off of your allies. So you either had to just straight up burst this guy down, or deal with his Mara-struck soldiers, which takes more cycles. The easiest solution, obviously, is to just remove his buff that heals him with either Pela or Luocha. So I believe investing in Pela for this season of Memory of Chaos was my smartest decision I've ever made. On top of that, having both Natasha and March 7th for the Kafka fight was really useful since they both have a cleanse, so if a scenario ever comes up where either of them is dominated or charmed, they can just cleanse the other one, making the fight rather easier to deal with than it normally would. Alright, now I'm going to go over my characters and their builds, starting off with Bailu. For the most part, Bailu is roughly the same, not much has changed about her. Same light cone, same trace investments. These are her relics, still using that musketeer set. I have not been able to farm the newer set for both HP and speed, unfortunately, but eventually we'll get there. As far as Eidolons go, she has no Eidolons. Next is my Silverwolf. Same light cone, Same traces. Eventually I will max out her ultimate and her skill, but that will be until the next raid up event or double drop event for trace material. These are her relics. I believe this was either Serval's or someone else's headpiece, but I decided to not use Serval for the later stages of Memory of Chaos, so a lot of her gear has been transferred onto different characters. Gloves, same crappy crit rate chest piece unfortunately. Her boots, planar sphere, temporary piece, and temporary link rope as well. Eidolons, she's at Eidolon 0. Alright, now let's go over my Ting Young, who actually did a great job surviving floor 10 of Memory of Chaos. Normally she's the one that gets targeted by the enemy and dies fairly quickly. However, this time around, she wasn't the one dying within my runs. It was either usually my Zile or Silverwolf, which means she's actually doing her job fairly well. For her light cone, I actually upgraded it to level 80 recently. That might be one of the main reasons why she was able to actually survive floor 10 this time around. It gave her more base HP and defense, as well as some attack. For her traces, I unlocked her third major trace, which is actually one of her most important major traces, so she gets a lot more energy regeneration every fight now. Aside from that, everything else is the same. These are her relics. This energy regeneration rate rope is actually a new piece. The rolls were okay. It did grow in the speed one time. I would have loved a bit more speed, but I can't really complain about the defensive stats on this piece. Eidolons, unfortunately, she's still at Eidolon 0. Next is my Zile. Everything about her is pretty much the same. Same light cone, same traces. Eventually I'm going to max everything out, but waiting for that double drop event. These are her relics. Trying to get the 4-piece quantum set on her, but haven't been getting much luck in that domain, unfortunately. We'll get there someday, though. Eidolons, Eidolon 0. Next is Dan Hung, who is my main DPS for the second half of Memory of Chaos. I believe everything is pretty much the same for him as well. Same light cone, traces, and relics. Some amazing upgrades from the last time I decided to work on his relics, especially this piece is quite good. I need a better planar sphere, however. This one will do for now. It's got a decent amount of speed and a little bit of crit rate. And the link rope is really nice. The set is a offset, but the substats are pretty decent. It's got a good amount of crit rate and crit damage and some break effect. Eidolons, he's at Eidolon 3. Once he gets to Eidolon 4 and 5, he will be an absolute powerhouse. He already hits pretty hard for a 4-star character. I'm not going to go over my Serval, mainly because her gear is all jumbled up and moved across different characters. For God's sake, she doesn't even have the right light cone. I just have this light cone on her because I swapped it with one of my other characters. I forgot which one it was that's using her light cone. I believe it's Palo or something. But anyways, her gear is all messed up right now because she's currently benched. I haven't been using her for the later stages of Memory of Chaos. That might change, however, in the future upcoming seasons of Memory of Chaos when they change the enemies as well as the memory turbulence. Here's my Natasha. I believe everything's the same for her as well. Same light cones, same traces, relics. Still haven't gotten any good pieces for her from the new relic domains, unfortunately. So she just has a broken 2-piece set of outgoing healing. We need better planar spheres and link ropes for her as well. Eidolons, she's at Eidolon 3. I forgot what her Eidolon 4 does. Some extra energy regeneration. Not really that great. Her ultimate only costs 90 energy, so that doesn't really help her that much. Surprisingly enough, my Fire Trailblazer is actually benched as well, just like my Serval. March 7th just does a better job for the current season of Memory of Chaos. Of course, like I said before, that might be subject to change due to the different seasons, different enemies, and memory turbulence. The current season has a lot of enemies weak to ice, so that's why my March 7th is slightly better and pushes out ahead of the Fire Trailblazer. And speaking of March 7th, here's her build. She has the same light cone, Moment of Victory. Traces are roughly the same. I don't think I'm going to put any more investment into her traces as they don't provide much value to her other than her shield, and maybe this one in the future. It's an extra turn on her shield. These are her relics. They're some of the best defensive relics I have. A lot of them actually came over from my Fire Trailblazer or have been transferred over from my Fire Trailblazer, mostly because he's currently benched, so I'm just putting him on March since she's the main tank I'm running in the Memory of Chaos as of now. Yeah, a lot of these pieces used to belong to him. These used to be the Fire Trailblazer's boots. I believe this one belonged to March 7th all along. This definitely used to belong to the Fire Trailblazer as well. Defensive link rope. And for Eidolons, of course, you guys already know, the infamous Eidolon 6 March 7th. Alright, and last but definitely not least is my Pela, who in many ways, in my opinion, was one of the main reasons, or probably the main reason, why I was able to obtain 30 stars in this season of Memory of Chaos, mostly to her buff removal. She's temporarily using Serval's Lycone just for the stats. Eventually, when I get a better Nihility Lycone, I'll probably build it up and level it up as well. Obviously, Silverwolf's Lycone is the best in slot for her in my opinion, however, I am also using my Silverwolf on the second team, so I cannot put it on my payload. That is why I'm currently just using this as a temporary Lycone. These are her traces, not much investment other than her ultimate and her talent. In my opinion, these two are the most important ones, especially her ultimate, for the increased chance of reducing the enemy's defense, as well as increased defense reduction. These are her relics, currently just a mix of random relics that I was able to jumble up. These used to belong to my Ting Young. This used to belong to Dan Hung, and then I moved it to Serval, and then I moved it from Serval onto Pela, so this gear has been on many characters, but it's really good on Pela. Look, just because of the high amount of effect hit rate. She greatly benefits from that. This is just a temporary effect hit rate piece that I have on her. And temporary speed boots that I had on my March 7th before. But I decided this is probably better on Pela and I don't plan on upgrading it any further. So just a decent temporary piece for her that completes the 2-piece speed set. This was supposed to be a future relic piece for my Su Shang that I plan on building. However, the rolls all went into effect hit rate, so it's still not a bad piece, but probably not the best for Su Shang. Maybe good for a future physical damage dealer that is of the Nihility class. Someone like Luca, probably. But yeah, I only put it on my Pela because of the high effect hit rate. This link rope used to belong to my Ting Young, but ever since Ting Young got that other energy regeneration rope, I feel like this one is better suited for Pela. Yes, Ting Young would love the attack percent and speed, but Pela can utilize the extra effect hit rate on this energy regeneration link rope. So this is probably going to be a permanent piece on my Pela. As far as Eidolons go, she's Eidolon 2. Okay guys, well that's going to be it for this Honkai Star Rail video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, or if you have anything to add. Other than that, I'll see you guys in the next Honkai Star Rail video. Peace.